yourself if you want to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
no, no,
yourself a bit
but
more.
we should just on this issue though of these right wing YouTubers though. So um, because I do want to talk a little bit about sort of the state of like the labor fights here in America, because that's the thing is like there needs to be a voice for blue collar people because that's like a real issue. And I always thought it was silly when I would see like I know I keep mentioning the quartering, but he's just kind of like the easy target. But like he'll
Yeah.
complain like when he complained about that kids cartoon, what was it, Shira? He was complaining that the boobs weren't big enough or whatever on like
Yeah,
some.
there's loads of weird shit like that.
Yeah, so like to me it's like these dudes are crying about like Disney movies and stuff, but like there's people that are like really suffering, at the behest of the way the systems, I working. So well, not really working. The way the system sort of exploits people. Those are the things that could start like a very interesting policy discussion. But a lot of times they just have like really bad takes on like these culture issues, and I feel like that's how they want to attack the left. Like rather than address, say, like CEO pay going up like 10,000 fold or something like that, they'd much rather like complain about like Superman being gay in a comic book or something like that. But that said, I still very much appreciate when you go into that, and I still very much appreciate, like, for example, how these guys don't even understand some of these cultural things. Like you mentioned, how they think like Metal Gear Solid is like it's I don't know. I guess they try to claim it as theirs. Like this is like good right wing art
Yeah,
or
like
what? Yeah, go ahead.
it's yeah. You touched on something interesting because it's like it's as old as like American politics. Really, it's culture war to distract you while they loot your pockets. So like with Republicans in America, abortion, Second Amendment, all this stuff. While they get Reagan in to destroy unions, or they get Trump in to like enrich the 0.1% even more. So it's what they always do because like you're saying left wing people in general are the ones for like worker solidarity. A lot of the rights people enjoy today are because of like left wing movements historically. Americans are even worse. I always say this: like there isn't a country more cucked by capitalism, is because they're not only one of the worst examples of capitalism, they're proud of it. A lot of these right wingers, and it's like I only found out the other day Americans aren't entitled to paid leave at all. I
No.
used to get like 21 days, and that's considered rubbish in the UK. Like that's considered like the bare legal minimum. And then I did know this kind of. I couldn't believe some minimum wages for like servers and stuff is $2 an hour, and you've got to make all your money on tips. Like that is
Gratuity.
just like, yeah, that's just crazy. And it's obviously like we're at different points in different countries. Like obviously the UK Labour movement has been way stronger historically. Like one of the second biggest parties, the Labour Party, was created by a trade unionist miner, and that there isn't a similar party in the US that's had enough power. But then obviously with people like the quartering, Ben Shapiro, and all these patriots, it's like, well, if you don't like it, get out. Or if you failed, it's your fault because in this free system, you can make of yourself whatever you want. That's the beauty of like America and stuff. But then there's no point talking about that because you're gonna outrage your conditioned audience. And then obviously you will know this. The internet, despite America not being the most populous country, is dominated by Americans. Like they make up a massive, especially English speaking places. So people like the quartering, they're pandering mainly to Americans who are totally brainwashed by a system. So if the quartering went off on a big rant talking about unions and how great they were and something, people would get pissed off. And actually, which is funny about this, links to everything. Do you remember when the Netflix employees walked out? Well, apparently that is woke SJWs complaining about everything, despite their like asserting their right to walk out because they want to stand in solidarity with the marginalized workers who don't want this Dave Chappelle special, and basically Netflix not really enforcing their own rules and a lot of stuff. But that to them it's woke because it's Netflix employees. It's like I don't know, your millennial with blue hair drinking soy lattes who's just like you know is wealthy enough but just cares like pretends to care about social issues. It's like no, their image of the working class, these people, is like working class anymore is not a term that just applies to coal miners who like live in like mining towns or something. It's actually like most people can relate because wages are so shit and you're living paycheck to paycheck with your rent. And like you're saying, the problem is, think about how many people would probably watch these guys who have these circumstances, and then they're watching political figures who would keep telling them, either it's your fault or there's nothing to be done or it's the left trying to ruin America. But like you're saying, the material things, the left will always win the argument on. So how do they convince people, especially workers? And it seems quite like meta, like we're talking about like nerd media and stuff, but it does have, like I've talked about so much how it does radicalize people. Like the quartering, what has he also talked about? Carl Rittenhouse trial. What does he also talk about? Loads of stuff to do with COVID. He talks about political stuff all the time, or at the very least, he puts political reasons into why something you love has been ruined. Why has Star Wars been ruined? Politics. Why has everything you like been ruined? Left-wing politics. And then that puts people down the rabbit hole where they're never going to side with someone like me because I'm a crazy SJW. I'm not reasonable. If I tell you $15 minimum wage is like not even enough, you should get like $20 or something. They're like crazy SJW because they've been conditioned by these media channels. So it does sound kind of silly on the surface, but I guarantee, like, especially people who've told me that I've helped them come out of this rabbit hole through like my own analysis, it is like a really real thing that can actually radicalize you into becoming conservative or even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they sneak in that agenda of because I think the idea is like, oh, see, look at how crazy they act about well, in their eyes, they're like, look at how crazy. They don't even know their sex. Therefore, what do they know about economics? And then all of a sudden, people are accepting fucking getting screwed by their boss. And actually, by the way, thank you for sharing and about the labor conditions in Europe. Like at least some of the bare what the bare minimum is over there. And I think that's an important thing. I'm gonna make sure to highlight that on the channel because. I just feel like, yeah, it's a lot of Americans may not, they're not, they don't understand it. Especially, what I also worry about is younger people too, because they, I don't know, they might not have a sense of like what these fights have been on. Like what's really happened with these labor fights historically, and sort of like they don't know that there used to be a lot more unions in America. And well, right now there's some interesting fights though going on, but there's some things to me that illustrate the need to have more unions. At the very least, more of a pushback on the way like corporations are set up in America. And one of the things that happened is some people died in these Amazon facilities, and also. There were some other businesses. So when this tornado hit in Kentucky, there was this candle factory, and all the workers were basically told, if you leave early, you're fired. So basically they weren't even allowed to leave their workplace as a tornado approaches. And of course, the factory was just leveled.
Yeah.
Now,
no, and also, can I just say one more thing
go ahead.
about America? Before we move on. Is it called right to work in America, where they can fire you for any reason that isn't like a discriminatory reason? I think there's something in America where you can legally fire anyone for any reason you want, and if it's not discriminatory, like if it's not based on your sex, gender, race, or if you're pregnant. I was reading, it's not illegal. If you piss me off and I'm the boss, I can fire you, and that's it.
Yeah, so
that's another thing as well.
Yeah, because one thing about the right to work laws. One of the ways they've weakened unions, and this is something that I definitely have talked about, what the argument on the right has been is like, because there used to be some very strong unions where if you wanted the job, you had to join the union, right? So now on the surface, that may seem like, oh, isn't that taking away your choice, right? But what ends up happening is if everybody's unified, everybody's together, everybody's paying their dues, you have camaraderie. And also what that means is that if the boss tries to fire you on some BS reason like you're mentioning, if your union is strong enough, they can actually hire lawyers to fight that BS off, right?
Yeah.
So what the right to work laws did is it weakened the membership because it sowed division, because what it does is that it creates a situation where you get the pettiness, like, why should I pay this union dues. It's my money, right? So you get
It's American brainwashing in terms of the individual, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I just freaking despise Trump. And it's sad seeing like how he like knew how to manipulate like the insecure, blue collar people. It was mostly particularly like the sort of Yankee white Protestant type blue collar types that maybe they're getting hit with like economic turmoil. There's like maybe an opioid crisis in their neighborhood, right? And here's this guy Trump trying to appeal to them, like making it seem like he's like one of us. He's gonna stick it to the establishment, but of course
Yeah.
he's not making it very good. But yeah, this whole thing though with the at the very least, this is what I could say is like I think one beyond just like paying people good wages, unions also make sure there's safe working conditions. And to me, like this whole not being able to leave work early when the tornadoes come in, that should be written in these contracts in these areas that like people should be allowed in a circumstance like this where your life is in danger. You should be allowed to fucking tell the boss, like your manager, like fuck you, I'm going home. I'm not gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I don't know. You could share your take on it. I don't know if there's ever been anything like this in your side of the globe.
Yeah.
But
Well, the thing is, the UK employment protection law, even though it's been undermined a lot, it is still like a lot better than the US. Like, you'll if someone fires you for something really stupid like that, the lawsuit would just be like, there would I can't imagine a scenario in the UK that there'd be any loopholes a company could get out of telling you to stay at work and then dying on the job. The only thing I can think about is like some coal mines in Wales where there's like massive landslides that like took out like whole mining towns and stuff. But I don't really. That's the '60s, so it's a bit different. But in terms of like the overall thing is like, why do those people feel like they have to stay? To me, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. I'm leaving. Like you're not gonna fire me because I'm not willing to die for this job. And the thing is, like I feel in the UK at least we have enough power to do that. Like I've read because I was in a union at my old job and I was trying to. The annoying thing is not anyone else in my union. So although I had access to a lawyer because I paid my union dues, and I could probably take that person to court. Obviously that's a lot of hassle. I just ended up quitting. I was just fuck this. But like I have that option, and my boss knew I had that option. So I was like, yeah. She was being really annoying about like COVID lockdowns and coming to the office, and I was like, yeah, I'm in a union, so I'm going to talk to them. And then she basically didn't want to deal with it, and that's made her back down. But what an awful system where there's so many factors where a person can literally not want to prioritize their own safety over their job. Like, and then you got to ask yourself, a lot of people who might be ignorant be like, well, they should have just left anyway. Like, who cares what your boss says? Just go. And it's like, well, no, like bills to pay, student loan debt. And this is the thing Americans just don't realize about the rest of the world, right? Like, I hate Tony Blair specifically because he brought in like student debt and stuff. But the thing is, I haven't paid my student debt for like a year, and they're not on my case. They literally, it just comes out of your paycheck if you're working over a certain amount, right? And then most people are going to have it written off by the time they're 40 because it just has an expiration date on it. So I'm probably never going to pay my loans back, right? So that's one thing I don't have to worry about, really. If I don't have a job, I'm not paying loans. So that's one thing. And then minimum wage is better. It's still shit. It's better though. It's like £9 or something. And then unions are stronger. You have guaranteed paid time off. Like, I had 17 days plus Christmas week. That's considered bad. That is like the worst. Everyone's like, oh, that is so bad, right? In America, you're like, you'll be lucky to even get the holidays off. Like the thing about Americans in general is they don't realize how much the state has crushed the union movements. You probably the Battle of Blair Mountain, where union people are literally fighting the National Guard with machine guns. It's like that's how much they'll go out of their way to crush you, because America like is not this free